Frank was 22 when life felt like a game to him. He loved loud music, late nights with friends, and the sweet attention of girls who admired his smile and confidence. Joy was different from all of them. She was quiet, soft-spoken, and had a way of looking at him that made him feel seen, not just admired. They had been together for almost a year. Joy believed with all her heart that Frank was her future. When he held her hand and promised, "I will never leave you," she believed every word. She gave him her trust, her time, and finally, her body. Then one evening, her hand shaking, she asked him to meet her in a small, quiet corner behind her aunt's house. Her eyes were red, as if she had cried all night. "Frank," she whispered, I missed my period. I went to the clinic. I am pregnant." The world seemed to stop for her, waiting for his answer. Frank stared at her as if she had spoken another language. "Pregnant," he repeated, his voice sharp. She nodded, tears gathering. "Yes, it's yours. I have not been with anyone else." She reached for his hand, but he pulled it away. "Joy, no," he said quickly. "This cannot be happening. I'm still young. I am not ready to be a father." She swallowed hard. "I know it is early, but we can plan." "We can." He cut her off, anger and fear mixing in his chest. "Plan what?" "To throw my life away. I just started enjoying myself. I have dreams, Joy. I can't be carrying a baby around." His words fell on her like stones. Her lips trembled. "Frank, this is our child." He shook his head stubbornly. "No, it is your problem, not mine." The tears finally dropped from her eyes. "How can you say that? You promised." "I don't care what I promised," he snapped. "I will not accept this. And don't go around telling people it is mine. I will deny it." Joy stepped back as if he had slapped her. "You will deny me," she whispered. "You will deny your own child." Frank looked away, guilt trying to rise, but pride pushed it down. "I am not ready to be a father. Do whatever you want. Just leave me out of it." He turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone. She watched him go, her heart breaking in slow, heavy pieces. The evening breeze felt cold against her wet face. She placed both hands over her flat stomach and cried, not just for herself, but for the little life growing inside her. In that moment, something in her childhood died. That night, Joy packed her small bag. Her aunt shouted, questioned, insulted, but Joy did not answer much. She only said, "I cannot stay here. I need to start again somewhere else." With pain in her heart and no clear plan, she left that town, her tears her only companion. Far away in his rented room, Frank sat with his friends, laughing loudly as if nothing had happened. But when he lay on his bed later, the laughter emptied out of his chest. He remembered Joy's eyes, the way her voice broke when she said, "You will deny me?" He turned his face to the wall, pushed the thought away, and told himself he had done the right thing for his future. Joy arrived in a new town with very little money and too much pain. She rented a tiny room at the back of an old building. The ceiling leaked when it rained, and the floor was rough, but at least it was her own space. Here, no one knew her story. Days turned into weeks. Her body changed, her clothes getting tighter around her stomach. People in the compound whispered, but she kept her head low. She found work in a small restaurant, washing plates, sweeping floors, doing any little job that brought in a little money. At night, when she lay on her small mattress, she placed her hand over her stomach. "Little one," she whispered, "you are not a mistake. You are not a shame. You are my child." Sometimes she cried as she spoke, but she kept talking as if her words could build a gentle wall around the baby. She tried not to think of Frank, but memories still came like uninvited guests. Months later, after hours of painful labor and no family by her side, Joy gave birth to a baby girl. The nurse placed the crying child on her chest. Joy held her close, tears mixing with sweat. "You are mine," she whispered. "You will never be denied." She named her Mandy. Life did not suddenly become easy. There were nights when Mandy cried and Joy had no money for proper food. There were days when she went to work tired, her eyes red from lack of sleep. But whenever she looked at Mandy's small face, something inside her found strength. The restaurant owner, a kind middle-aged woman, sometimes watched Joy carry Mandy on her back while washing plates. "You are a strong girl," the woman would say. "One day, your story will change." Joy always smiled weakly. She didn't know how or when, but she held on to that hope like a small light in a dark room. Far away, Frank was also changing. He left his careless friends and started working with a businessman who ran a building materials store. He learned to keep records, load goods, and talk to customers with respect. Whenever he saw young girls walking with round stomachs, his heart would jump, but he would quickly look away. Sometimes at night he would sit outside, staring at the sky. "And if the child is really mine?" a quiet voice asked in his mind. He would shake his head, angry at himself for even thinking about it. "She chose to go," he would say in his heart. "I am moving on." But the guilt stayed somewhere deep, like a stone hidden under water. Back in her little room, Joy rocked Mandy to sleep. The baby's tiny fingers curled around her own. "People may say you came from a mistake," Joy whispered, "but I know you came from love, even if your father forgot." She kissed her daughter's forehead and let her tears fall silently into the night. 1 year passed, then another. Slowly, life began to change for both of them. Frank worked hard at the building materials business. His boss noticed his seriousness and trusted him with more responsibilities. Customers liked his calm voice and honest way of doing things. Money began to come in, not too much, but enough to think differently about the future. Through his boss, Frank met a woman named Grace. She was beautiful but not loud. She ran a small fashion shop, sewing clothes and selling ready-made ones. She had a gentle laugh that softened his rough edges. They started as friends, talking about work and life. Grace saw that Frank was ambitious and focused. He saw that she was hardworking and kind. Over time, friendship turned into something deeper. One evening, as they walked home together, Grace smiled shyly. "I like the man you are trying to be," she said quietly. Frank's chest tightened. He remembered the careless boy he used to be, the one who walked away from a pregnant girl. He did not tell Grace about that part of his life, but her words made him want to do better. With time, Frank grew richer than before. The business expanded, and his boss made him a partner. He moved out of his small room into a better apartment. When he finally asked Grace to marry him, she said yes with tears in her eyes. Their wedding was simple but beautiful. Friends and family gathered, music played, and for the first time in a long while, Frank felt truly hopeful. Later, Grace gave birth to a baby boy. They named him Mark. From the day Mark was born, Frank made a silent promise. "I will never deny you," he whispered, holding the tiny child in his arms. He watched his son's small fingers and soft face and felt both joy and a quiet sting of old guilt. Somewhere in another town, he knew there might be another child who did not have his name. Meanwhile, Joy's life also took a new turn. The restaurant owner introduced her to a customer named Philip. He was handsome, soft-spoken, and successful in his own business. He noticed how carefully Joy worked and how lovingly she carried Mandy. Philip started visiting more often, always sitting where he could see the little girl. He would buy food and quietly leave extra money with the owner for the young mother, as he called her. One day, he gathered courage and spoke directly to Joy. "You are doing a lot alone," he said gently. "You are a good mother." Joy looked at him unsure. Life had taught her not to trust easily. But Philip stayed patient. He came back again and again, never pushing, only showing steady care. With time, he asked about her story. Joy told him part of it, the part about being left with a pregnancy and starting again alone. He listened without judging, his eyes soft. "The man who left you lost a treasure," he said quietly. "But I am grateful that you are here in my life." Slowly, her heart opened. A few years later, Joy and Philip got married. He was also rich, but he never used his money to control her. He treated Mandy as his own daughter, loving her without conditions. In that home, Mandy grew with both love and comfort. So life moved on. Frank had his wife Grace and their son Mark. Joy had her husband Philip and their daughter Mandy. Many years passed like quiet pages in a long book. Mark grew into a tall, handsome young man. His skin was smooth, his shoulders broad, and he carried himself with quiet confidence. People often said he reminded them of his father when Frank was young. The same sharp eyes, the same charming smile. But Mark's heart was different. Frank had raised him with discipline and constant reminders. Respect women. Do not play with people's hearts. Do better than I did. Grace always added her gentle voice. Choose love, not ego. So Mark grew up careful, thoughtful, and kind. By the time he turned 22, he was now in the university studying accounting. He didn't chase girls the way many boys his age did. He focused on work, home, and his dreams. But there was something else, a quiet emptiness he could not explain. A small part of him always felt like something was missing in his life, something he couldn't name. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Mandy had grown into a stunning young woman. Her beauty wasn't loud or showy. It was gentle and natural, the kind of beauty that made people smile without knowing why. She had her mother's soft eyes and Philip's calm strength. Philip treated her like his own blood. He paid her school fees without hesitation, guided her in her studies, and proudly introduced her as my daughter to everyone. Mandy got admission into the university to study mass communication. For the first time in her life, she had a taste of freedom, her own space, her own choices, her own dreams. Joy cried the day she left for school. Be careful, my child, she whispered, holding her tightly. Remember where you come from. Remember who loves you. I will, Mama, Mandy promised, her eyes wet. University life embraced her quickly. She made friends, joined a few groups, and worked part-time in a small campus cafe on weekends to support herself. People admired her beauty, but they admired her more for her humility. One Saturday afternoon, Mandy's friend Ada dragged her to a youth seminar happening in the town hall near their campus. Let's go now, Ada insisted. The speaker is a young banker. He is fine and gentle. Mandy laughed. That is not a reason to attend an event. Who cares? Ada shouted playfully. Let's go. They entered the hall quietly and found seats at the back. Many young people were gathered, talking and laughing. Mandy sat calmly, her bag on her lap, her eyes on the stage. Then the guest speaker walked out. The hall became quieter. He was tall, handsome, and well-dressed in a simple shirt tucked into black trousers. He carried himself like someone who understood responsibility. His presence filled the room. It was Mark. Mandy sat up slowly, drawn by something she could not explain. Her heart did a strange little jump. He started speaking, calm voice, confident tone. I'm not here to tell you that life is perfect, Mark said. I'm here to tell you that mistakes don't define your future. What defines you is how you rise after them. His words carried a weight he didn't explain, a pain he didn't identify, but Mandy felt it. She listened to every sentence, every pause. After the program ended, people rushed to take pictures and ask questions. Mandy stood aside, waiting for the crowd to thin. At last, Mark turned and saw her. For a moment, their eyes met. He felt a quiet pull in his chest, something gentle, something new. She felt her breath catch. He walked toward her, smiling slightly. Hi, he said softly. You were sitting at the back. I noticed you listening deeply. Mandy returned the smile, shy and warm. Yes, you speak from the heart. It touched me. He laughed lightly. I try. I am Mark. I'm Mandy. Their names hung between them like the beginning of something neither expected. Are you a student? He asked. Yes, she nodded. Mass communication. That fits you, he said. You look like someone who listens before speaking. She blushed a little. And you look like someone who carries more than he says. Mark's smile faded just a little because it was true, but he pushed that thought away. Can I walk you out? He asked. Yes, she said softly. They walked slowly down the steps and into the evening air. Students passed by, laughing, shouting, but for a moment the world felt quiet around them. Do you live on campus? He asked. Off campus, she replied. With a friend. My mom is very protective, even now. He chuckled. Mine too. They reached the gate. I enjoyed talking with you, she said. I enjoyed meeting you, he replied, looking into her eyes. Can we talk again? Her heart fluttered. Yes, we can. They exchanged numbers. As she walked away, Mandy felt something warm growing in her chest, not excitement alone, but comfort, like she had met someone familiar even though they just met. Mark watched her go, feeling the same strange pull. Something in him whispered, this is not an accident. Neither of them knew that fate had quietly opened a door built many years before they were even born. a door leading to love, and to a truth that would shake all their lives. The days that followed moved with a quiet softness neither Mark nor Mandy fully understood. After that first meeting at the seminar, their lives, once far apart, began to gently weave together, thread by thread, moment by moment. It didn't happen quickly. It didn't explode like fireworks. It grew slowly, like morning light creeping into a room. That same night, Mandy's phone rang. Her heart jumped when she saw the name Mark. She took a slow breath before answering. "Hello," she said, her voice calm but her fingers trembling. Mark smiled on the other end. "I just wanted to make sure you got home safely." Mandy's breath softened. "Yes, I did. Thank you." There was a small silence, a comfortable silence. "You know," Mark said quietly, "it felt like I met someone I've known for a long time." Mandy's heart warmed. "I felt that too," she admitted. They talked for minutes that became almost an hour, about school, work, dreams, fears. When the call ended, Mandy lay on her bed staring at the ceiling, wondering why her chest felt full. Mark sat in his room, replaying her laughter in his mind. He didn't understand why it mattered, but it did. Over the next several weeks, they talked often. Sometimes short calls, sometimes long ones that stretched past midnight. Mark found himself waiting for her messages, her voice, her thoughts. Mandy found comfort in him, comfort she had not felt with anyone else before. One quiet Saturday afternoon, he visited her campus to see her. They sat under a mango tree near her faculty building. Students walked past them, but the world felt small around their bench. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Mandy said playfully, sipping a drink. Mark looked at her deeply. "Something I've never told anyone," he repeated slowly. She nodded. He hesitated. Then he said softly, "Sometimes I feel like there's a part of my past missing. Like someone I should know, but I don't know." Mandy looked at him carefully. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," Mark said. "My parents love me. They're good people. But sometimes my dad, he gets quiet when I ask about his youth. I feel like there's a story there." Mandy listened, her eyes gentle. "Maybe he will tell you when he's ready." Mark nodded. "Maybe." She smiled slightly. "My mother also hides some pain. She doesn't talk about my father. All she says is that he denied us." His chest tightened at her words. He didn't know why. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "That must hurt." "It used to," she said softly. "But I have accepted it. He didn't want us. But my mom, she is enough for me." Mark watched her eyes as she spoke, eyes full of strength formed from scars. He felt something inside him shift. "Mandy," he said quietly, "you are one of the strongest people I've met." She looked at him shyly. "And you are gentle. That is rare." Their eyes held each other for a long moment. Nothing loud happened, but something inside both of them took root. Weeks later, as the semester got busier, Mark visited Mandy one evening after her classes. They walked slowly along a quiet path behind the cafeteria. Lights glowed softly above them. The night breeze moved gently through the trees. "Thank you for coming," Mandy said. "It's been a long day." "You sounded tired on the phone," Mark replied. "I wanted to see you." She smiled, but her eyes carried a small sadness he noticed. "What's wrong?" he asked, stopping. She sighed softly. "Sometimes I wish I knew my father. Not because I need him, but because I want to know where I came from. My roots." Mark's heart softened. "I understand," he said gently. "Some questions stay inside us until life decides to answer them." She looked up at him. "You speak like someone who feels the same." Mark didn't speak immediately. Then he whispered, "Maybe I do. Maybe I don't know everything I should know." A small silence settled between them. They kept walking. Then suddenly, Mandy tripped over a small stone and almost fell. Mark grabbed her quickly, his hand tightening around her wrist, steadying her. "Careful," he said, his voice full of concern. Mandy looked up at him, her face close to his. Something passed between them, soft, warm, unplanned. "Thank you," she whispered. He didn't let go immediately. Neither did she. The world around them faded for a second. Then Mark slowly released her hand, his heart beating faster. That night, after he escorted her back to her hostel gate, she stood for a moment, looking at him. "I'm happy I met you," Mandy said softly. I'm grateful I met you, Mark replied. She smiled, shy but bright. Good night, Mark. Good night, Mandy. As she walked inside, her fingers brushed the spot where he had held her. Her heart felt warm, almost trembling. Mark walked away slowly, hands in his pockets, a quiet smile on his lips. They didn't call what they felt love. Not yet. The months that followed were gentle, steady, and full of quiet discoveries. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, just two young hearts finding peace in each other. Mark visited Mandy on campus often, sometimes in the evenings, sometimes on weekends when she wasn't working at the cafe. They walked around the school compound, shared food from small plastic containers, laughed at silly jokes, and sometimes sat under the mango tree saying nothing, just breathing the same air. They didn't need big promises. Their connection grew in silence, like a seed taking root without noise. But life has a way of turning small, soft moments into something heavy, something bigger than anyone expects. One Saturday, Mandy invited Mark to visit her home, not to meet her mother officially, not yet, but just to see where she came from. Just come, she said with a shy smile. Mama is not around today. Philip traveled too. The house will be quiet. Mark agreed. When he arrived, Mandy opened the small gate for him, her smile warm and soft. Welcome, she said, stepping aside. He walked into the compound slowly. It was clean and peaceful, flowers in small buckets, a neatly swept yard, a calmness that felt familiar even though he'd never been there before. You have a beautiful place, he said. Mandy looked around with pride. My mother built peace here with her hands. This house may be small, but it carries love. Mark smiled. I can feel it. They sat in the small living room, where sunlight passed gently through the curtains. Mandy brought drinks, and they talked about their hopes, their childhoods, their fears. At one point, Mandy walked to a small shelf and picked up a framed picture. This is Philip, she said, handing it to Mark. My stepfather. Mark looked at the smiling man in the photo. He looks kind. He is, Mandy said softly. He loves my mother. And he loves me too. He gave me the life I never had. He is the only father I know. There was a quiet pause. Mark studied her face. How her eyes softened when she spoke of home. How her voice grew gentle when she mentioned love. He admired her strength more than ever. They moved outside to sit under the mango tree behind the house. The breeze was cool. The shade was deep and comforting. Mark watched Mandy as she plucked a leaf and played with it between her fingers. Can I ask you something? He said. She nodded. Have you ever wondered what your father would be like? Mandy's hand stilled. Her eyes dimmed a little, but she answered honestly. I used to wonder, she said quietly. Maybe when I was still a child. I would imagine a tall man coming to my school, lifting me up, calling me his daughter. She sighed softly, but he never came. He never tried. So I stopped imagining. Mark's heart tightened. He didn't understand why her pain felt personal to him, but it did. I'm sorry, he whispered. She looked up, her eyes grateful. It's okay. Philip filled that space. And my mother, she is enough for me. Mark nodded, but inside something deep shifted. A quiet ache, like hearing a story and realizing it somehow belongs to you too. Weeks passed. Exams approached. Life moved quietly. Then one Thursday evening, Mandy called Mark. Her voice was low, shaking, almost breaking. Mark, she whispered, can you come? Please, I need you. He did not ask questions. He rushed to campus immediately. He found her behind the hostel, standing alone under a dim streetlight. Her hands were trembling. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Mandy, he said softly, moving closer. What happened? She didn't speak. She just handed him a small paper bag, the kind used to wrap medicine. Mark opened it. Inside was a pregnancy test. Positive. His heart dropped into his stomach. Slowly, Mandy lifted her eyes to his. I did it twice, she said, her voice faint. Both are positive. Mark felt the world tilt beneath him. For a moment, all he heard was his heartbeat, loud, heavy, confused. He swallowed hard. When did you find out? 2 days ago, she whispered. I wanted to be sure before telling you. Mark, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Tears slid down her cheeks. Mark stepped closer and held her gently, carefully, like she was something delicate and breakable. Mandy, he whispered, look at me. She lifted her eyes. I'm not leaving, he said. I will not run away. I will not deny anything. I'm here. I'm with you. Her lips trembled. But we are young. I know, he whispered. But we will be responsible. We will do the right thing. Mandy broke into tears fully now, her face buried against his chest. He held her tighter, his own eyes wet but steady. We will tell our parents, he said slowly. We will face whatever comes. I love you, Mandy, and I will choose you even now. Those words calmed her trembling heart. She cried softly, her fingers clinging to his shirt. Mark held her as if the world depended on it. They stood there under the quiet night sky, unaware that they were walking directly into a truth neither of them could escape. A truth older than both of them. A truth quietly waiting in the shadows of the past. Mark traveled home alone early that morning. He didn't tell his parents ahead of time. He couldn't. His chest was heavy, and he felt like the road was longer than usual. When the bus finally stopped in front of his street, his legs felt weak. At the door, Grace opened first. Mark, she said, surprised. You didn't tell us you were coming today. Where is Dad? Mark asked quietly. Grace's smile faded. Something was wrong. He's inside. Why? What's going on? Mark stepped into the house slowly, as if each step carried stone weight. Frank was sitting on the sofa reading a newspaper. He looked up, surprised, then concerned. Mark, why are you home? Did something happen? Mark sat down. His hands shook. His lips dried out. Dad. Mum. I need to tell you something, he began, voice soft but hurting. Grace moved closer. Mark, talk to us. You're scaring me. He took a deep breath. Mandy is pregnant. The words felt like a heavy stone being dropped on the floor. Grace gasped and covered her mouth. Frank froze completely, the same way he did 25 years ago when Joy told him the same words. He stared at Mark, his heartbeat loud in his ears. Mark continued, voice breaking. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't want to hurt anyone. But I love her. And I told her I would take responsibility. Grace sat beside him, her hands shaking. Oh, Mark, she whispered. You are still so young. Why didn't you talk to us? Why didn't you wait? Mark lowered his head. I was afraid. I didn't want to disappoint you. Frank stood up slowly, his chest rising and falling sharply. Do you know what this means? He asked quietly, almost choking on his words. Do you understand the weight of this? Yes, Dad, Mark whispered. I do. That's why I came home. Because I want you to go with me to meet her mother. I want us to do things the right way. Frank's hands trembled. He saw himself again, young, foolish, scared, denying Joy's pregnancy. He saw the tears he caused, the pain he ran from. Now his son stood before him, trying to do the very thing he himself failed to do. Frank swallowed hard. We will go, he said quietly, pain tightening his voice. We will meet her family. Mark's eyes softened with relief. Grace wiped her tears and hugged her son tightly. I'm not angry, she whispered. I'm just scared, but we will stand with you. Frank placed a hand on Mark's shoulder. You will not walk this path alone, he said. That night, after everyone slept, Frank sat alone in the dark living room. The only light came from the street lamp outside. He saw Joy's face in his mind, like a ghost he had tried to forget. I was young, he whispered into the silence. I was foolish. I did not know. He stopped. The excuse felt weak now. A terrible thought crept into his mind, small but shy. What if? He pushed it away quickly. No, he muttered. There are many women, many stories. It can't be. Still, when he finally went to bed, his sleep was broken and full of shadows. While Mark was with his parents, Mandy traveled to see her mother too. She sat by the bus window, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She tried to hide her stomach with her bag, even though nothing was showing yet. Her body shook with fear, guilt, and shame. When she reached her compound, she entered quietly. Mama, she called softly. Joy came out from the kitchen, smiling widely. My baby, she said. You didn't tell me you were coming today. But the smile faded as soon as she saw Mandy's swollen eyes. Mandy, Joy whispered, stepping closer. What happened? Who hurt you? Mandy tried to speak, but her lips trembled. She covered her face as tears fell again. Joy grabbed her hand. My child, talk to me. You're shaking. Mandy finally spoke, voice breaking like glass. Mama, I did something. I'm so sorry. Mama, I'm so sorry. Joy's heart dropped. Her grip tightened. What is it? Mandy, please don't scare me. Mandy raised her eyes, full of pain. Mama, I'm pregnant. Joy's breath left her like someone punched her chest. She stumbled backward and sat heavily on a chair, her hand pressing against her heart. Mandy, she whispered. No, not you, not my child. Tears slid down her cheeks uncontrollably. Mama, I'm sorry, Mandy cried, falling to her knees in front of her. I didn't plan it. I didn't want to hurt you. Joy covered her mouth to stop the sob that pushed out. She shook her head, crying harder. I raised you alone, she whispered painfully. I suffered so you would not feel the pain I felt. I prayed that your story would be different, that your future would be bright. Mandy cried into her mother's lap. Mama, please forgive me, please. Joy touched her hair, trembling. I'm not angry, she whispered. I'm just scared. I know how this world treats young girls. I know how it hurts. I know how heavy this life can be. Mandy clung to her. Mama, he didn't run, she said through tears. Mark said he will marry me. He wants to meet you. Joy wiped her tears slowly. Does his family know? Yes, Mama. He is with them now. Joy sighed shakily. Fine, she said softly. Tell him to bring them here. Let us talk. This is not something I can solve alone. Mandy nodded against her. Joy held her tighter. You are my child, she whispered. Even if the world breaks into two, I will not leave you. They cried together, pain flowing out of both of them. Old pain and new pain mixing together. And deep inside Joy's chest, a quiet fear she didn't understand began to rise. A shadow from her past whispering. What if the father of your child meets you again through your daughter? She did not yet know that the past she escaped was already walking back to her door. The next morning came with a quiet heaviness. Mark barely slept. Mandy barely breathed. Joy hardly closed her eyes at all. And far away, Frank lay awake beside Grace, staring at the ceiling, feeling an old wound he had buried 25 years ago rising again like smoke from ashes. By noon, Mark and his parents were ready to travel to Mandy's home. Grace held Mark's hand. Are you sure we are welcome? She asked gently. Yes, Mum, Mark whispered. They are expecting us. Frank locked the door behind them with trembling fingers. Inside his chest, something twisted, fear, guilt, and a strange familiar ache he could not name. They entered the taxi. Frank sat quietly. He kept swallowing, as if his throat kept closing. Are you okay? Grace asked. I'm fine, he said softly. But he wasn't fine. He felt something, like he was traveling toward a truth he didn't want to meet. When they reached Mandy Street, Mark pointed at the small gate. That is her house. Frank froze. Something inside him shifted painfully. A memory flickered, Joy's laughter, Joy's tears, a night behind a bar, a girl he walked away from. His palms went cold. Mark opened the gate first. Mandy stood outside waiting, hands shaking, face pale but brave. She greeted them respectfully. Good afternoon. Sir, good afternoon, Ma. Grace smiled warmly. Good afternoon, my dear. But Frank did not move. He could not. His heart hammered against his ribs. Then Mandy stepped aside. Mama, they are here. Joy stepped into the doorway slowly. She did not know who she was expecting. She only knew she had to stand strong for her daughter. She wiped her hands on her wrapper and looked up. Then she froze. The house went silent. The sky went silent. Even the breeze stopped. Her eyes widened. Her lips parted. Her breath paused. Frank? She whispered, almost choking on the name. Frank's whole body shivered. The ground beneath him felt like it disappeared. Joy, he whispered back, his voice breaking like old glass. Mark looked between them, confused. Grace looked at her husband, shock and suspicion rising inside her. Frank, she said slowly, what is happening? Frank's legs felt weak. The past rose before him like a storm. He saw a bench behind a bar. He heard Joy's voice, I am pregnant. He heard his own cruel words, I don't want this child. He forced air into his lungs. Do you live here? He asked Joy weakly, as if the house itself was somehow wrong. Yes, she whispered. I live here. With my daughter and my husband, but he'd travel. Her eyes shifted to Mark, then back to Frank. My daughter. Frank's heart slammed against his ribs. Mandy, he said slowly, turning to the young woman. How old are you? 25, sir, she replied, confused. 25. The same number of years since he walked away from Joy. His stomach turned. He felt suddenly cold, then hot. Joy saw the change in his face. Tears filled her eyes. She knew that look. She had seen it long ago, the war inside him, the fear, the denial. But now there was something else too. Horror. Frank, she whispered, don't tell me your son. Mandy looked at her mother in fear. Joy took a step backward, holding the wall. No, she whispered. No, this cannot be real. God, no. Tears filled her eyes immediately. Hot, painful, old tears she thought she had buried long ago. Frank's knees weakened. He covered his face with both hands, his voice trembling. Oh God, no. Joy, it can't be you. But it was her. The girl he abandoned. The woman he wounded. The mother he left alone with a child. The same child who now stood beside Mark, pregnant with her brother's child. Joy shook her head again, her voice breaking. Frank, after all these years, you walk into my house like this? Through my daughter? Through her pain? Her words pierced the air like knives. Frank's tears dropped instantly. I didn't know, he whispered. Joy, I swear to God. I didn't know. Joy pressed her hand to her mouth, trying not to break. Mandy looked at her mother, then at Mark, confusion turning into shock as she slowly understood. The man who denied Joy was Mark's father. She gasped softly and held her stomach. Mama, no, please no. Joy held her daughter tightly. This is what I feared, Joy cried softly. This is the pain I prayed would never reach you. More tears fell. Frank stepped closer slowly, like a man walking toward judgment. Joy, he whispered, I came to beg for forgiveness, not knowing it was you, not knowing she was mine. I swear, I did not know. Mark stepped forward, his heart pounding. Auntie Joy, he said, trying to understand. You know my father? Joy looked at him with eyes full of sorrow. I knew him, she said quietly, before you were born, before she was born, long before this day. The pieces began to move in Mark's mind, slow and heavy. He looked at Mandy. He looked at his father. He looked at Joy. No, he whispered. This cannot be. But the truth was already standing between them, clear and cruel. They went inside. No one spoke until they were seated. The small sitting room felt too tight, too full of air that no one could breathe. Mandy sat beside her mother, her hand gripping Joy's arm. Mark sat opposite them, his face pale. Grace sat stiffly near Frank, her eyes hard, waiting. Frank sat on the edge of the chair like a man waiting for his sentence. Joy was the first to speak. Grace, she said quietly, looking at the other woman, I did not plan any of this. I did not even know he was your husband. I have not seen him for 25 years. Grace swallowed, her throat dry. What happened 25 years ago? She asked, though a part of her already knew. Joy turned her eyes to Frank. You tell them, she said, her voice shaking. You owe them the truth. Frank's hands trembled. He wiped his face slowly, as if his skin had grown heavy. I was young, he began, his voice low. I met Joy when I was in my early 20s. She was kind, beautiful. We were together for some time. Joy let out a small, bitter laugh. You mean you enjoyed yourself until responsibility came? He nodded, shame burning his cheeks. One night, he continued, she told me she was pregnant. I was afraid. I wanted to enjoy life. I did not want a child. So I denied it. I said it was not mine. I told her to leave. Tears slid down Joy's face. I left, she whispered, with your child inside me. Mandy's fingers loosened from her mother's arm. She looked at Joy slowly, her eyes wide. My father, she asked, her voice small. You mean? Joy nodded, her shoulders shaking. Yes, he is the one. Silence dropped into the room like a heavy stone. Mark stood up suddenly, his legs unsteady. So you are telling me, he said, staring at his father, that Mandy, the woman I love, the mother of my unborn child, is my sister? The word cut the air. Sister. Frank covered his face with his hands. I did not know, he whispered. I swear I did not know. I did not know where Joy went. I did not know she had the baby. I did not know. But you knew there was a chance, Joy snapped, anger rising through her tears. Grace's eyes filled with tears, too. Frank, she said, her voice breaking. How could you hide this from me? How could you never tell me you denied a woman and her child? He turned to her, broken. I was ashamed. I thought it was in the past. I told myself it was over. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to open old wounds. She shook her head, wiping her face. You did not close the wound. You buried it, and it has found us again. Mandy stood up slowly. Her whole body shook. My father is the man who denied me, she whispered, tears falling freely now. The man who made my mother suffer. The man I never knew. She looked at Mark, pain tearing through her. And you are my brother. Mark's breath hitched. Mandy, he said, reaching out. I swear I did not know. I would never. She stepped back quickly, as if his touch now burned. This is wrong, she cried. Everything is wrong. Her hands moved to her stomach. And this baby. Mark stepped toward Mandy slowly. She looked at him with shaking lips. We did not sin knowingly, he whispered. We didn't know. Mandy, I swear if we knew we would never have. She reached out and touched his arm one last time, her voice breaking. Mark, I loved you. I loved you so much. But now it hurts too much. He covered her hand with his and pressed it gently to his chest, both of them crying softly. Their love died quietly between them, not because it was wrong when it began, but because truth had arrived, and truth does not negotiate.